welcome to episode number 5 of your new favorite podcast, Bottled Up. I'm your co-host, Daniel, aka Quarter Zip Posner, with my fellow good friend,
Mr. Jermaine, Wolf of Wine Stone.
I'm
only rocking one. Now, for this one right here, we mean business.
When we get into spring, I'm going to rock some dope wine cellar t-shirt or something. While it's still wintertime, I'm going to allow myself this little sweater.
I'm going to bring you a hoodie, and I'll come through in the quarter zip.
I have a Jets hoodie that I'm embarrassed to wear these days. It's been a tough couple of decades, depending on who you talk to as a Jets fan. But we're in our lean years, rebuilding for solid 15 plus right now.
This is why I say Jets and Mets fans are usually great people. It builds grit, tenacity, people that'll stick with you through the hard times and just look past how messed up you are.
So the Jets do not have me bottled up.
That's not what got you bottled up.
If I was bottled up from the Jets, the podcast would have a different name, different mentality. I'd have a big L on my forehead. I would have so much to talk about, literally over my whole lifespan, of how awful the team is.
What's got you bottled up, man?
Wine distribution that we're going to talk about. Recently, RNDC, which was the second largest player in wine distribution in the United States, in 39 states, sold off 7 more states, including Florida, Illinois, major states. One of the largest private companies in the country, Reyes Beverage Group, huge out in California. They gobbled up all of RNDC in California without having to pay for it. They just took brands last year or over 2 years, and RNDC literally just had to close in California, which was a huge embarrassment because they had bought Young's out there. The recent news, RNDC is in New York and seems to be struggling here, but they're struggling everywhere. And to vacate more and more large markets is the level of frustration in our business. And Reyes seems to be a legit player in competing with Southern. Southern's the 800-pound gorilla in the wine and spirit space. But Reyes is actually a larger company. Southern's the 10th largest privately held company in the United States. Reyes, I looked it up, is the 6th at $44 billion. Huge beer player coming into the wine business. Only a matter of time before they enter New York. They're trying to compete. They've lost so much market in the New York metropolitan area. But where is wine distribution headed? What is the future for it? Is this sustainable? What is the federal government going to do? These are the questions that have me so bottled up in my 25 years in this business, Jermaine. Where are we headed here?
I'm not going to say it's a race to the bottom. I am not going to say that. That's not what I'm saying, because I know that there are some people that are getting those alarms, but I think that, you know me, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, even though I'm on a show called Bottled Up.
You're the half glass full. I'm the pessimist.
That's why I work. We have to view this as an opportunity because it's ringing bells in what's going on in wine. It is absolutely a tell of the things that we're seeing, reduced consumption. Sometimes that there can be problems within distribution and the way that it's viewed, the way that it's handled. Companies like RNDC should really take this seriously, because what I've seen, especially in working with different brands and different wineries, is that the distribution end has forgot about the sales portion and kind of become professional order takers. You just walk in, all right, what are you getting today? It's more transactional, right? It is a business and it should be transactional, but it's come down to just how can you make the most money? That's a huge part of economics, but it's like the soul is leaving the business.
This is a social business, right? We're talking alcohol, getting together, lunches, dinners, cocktails, drinks, perhaps late night, me, not so much in my old age. That social aspect, even that face-to-face, we deal with every day with our vendors. And I encourage our vendors, I have for years, just send me emails on what you have to offer. You're welcome to come in and taste us on wine and spirits, but that's getting lost. The meetings are getting lost. The events are getting lost. For us, wine dinners, even on the cultural side with our clients, attendance started declining over the years to the point where we do very few. We do private client events where we want people to taste wine, but it's almost like the thought of our clients sitting down and doing a 3-4 course meal with a winemaker from Burgundy or Bordeaux. Those are tough seats to fill.
Yes.
And restaurants have a tough time filling those seats, and our suppliers have tough times. So the cultural aspect, as you said, the transactional side has overtaken that socialization side. You have a company, say, like RNDC. If Southern's the 800-pound gorilla, RNDC is the 600-pound gorilla. Up until recently, I don't know how a company like that rebounds. When you have to literally close up in California, like you couldn't even sell that business. You just close it one day, and now you vacate Illinois, you vacate Florida. Like all of a sudden, what are you left with? And where do you see that headed down the line for your business? In New York, they're in a partnership with Opici, which is a long-standing importer of mostly Italian wines, but certainly others, and distribution in New York, New Jersey metro area, and a large player. And that was a family-owned business by the Opici family. And RNDC now, it theoretically owns that business. I don't know what percentage at this stage, but if you're the Opici family, what are you looking at, and how does this play into your world? And it continues to be very dangerous times, right? Robert Parker once said about 20 years ago, wine distributors would no longer exist in this country. He was wrong. Government regulation plays a huge role in this, right?
Absolutely.
And the regs allow for distributors literally to control the space, good, bad, or otherwise. It's very hard to enter that. So many states have franchise laws. If you're a distributor and you want to enter like the state of Massachusetts, good luck getting any brands. The franchise laws are prohibitive. New York doesn't have any franchise laws, but New Jersey does. Because of those archaic franchise laws, it's impossible to crack the codes.
For those that don't know, can you break down how franchise laws work?
It varies state by state, but the common theme of franchise laws is if you're a producer, a brand, an importer, or really at the producer level, whether you're a California winery, an Italian winery, once you sign on with that distributor in said state, you are locked.
Until they drop you.
Yes. The only choice literally is they can drop you. There's stories in these states, and I've been to Massachusetts and I've watched it firsthand, where even breweries, small breweries, signed on with quote unquote bad actors in distribution in their home state of Massachusetts. I've seen them actually offer $500,000 to these distributors and say, look, let me out of my contract. You're only selling 40 cases of my beer all over the state. And they're like, no.
And there's a lot of
and they won't let them out, and they let their brand suffer, and they're screwed. And they're like, this is our home state. We could self-distribute, but that problem exists in so many states, and it allows for a Southern, still family owned, to occupy $20+ billion. When they merged with Glazer's family out of Texas, it was like the first and the third, I think, largest distributors in the country merging, and the federal government did nothing to intervene.
Yeah.
And that 600-pound gorilla became the 800-pound gorilla. Probably the 1,000-pound gorilla now. But Reyes, interestingly enough, a larger company. They're bigger in the beer space, which is still quite important, as we know, in the alcohol world in the United States and beyond. And they're twice as big as Southern. And they're certainly knocking at the door.
What I see that needs to change is I feel like distributors have to realize that they are salespeople. You have to sell this stuff. The importance of having a brand manager in the specific market is because a lot of times the distributor is not going to be the person that's really pushing for actual sales and working the customers that are actually there. With retailers such as yourself, I'm sure you can attest that you want to buy from the people that want to sell wine with you. They want to help you to sell their wine. And if you're not seeing that they're doing the work to help you sell the wine in your store, it's not going to work out. I feel like we've gotten to this place where we're complacent. People know it, they're going to buy it. And that's how the move has been working. You're not seeing many in-store tastings anymore other than smaller brands. You're not seeing the actual market work happening. And that should be collaborative with the distributor, not simply leaving it all on the product side, not leaving it on the supplier, not leaving it solely to the supplier.
This is like a marriage, right? This has to work. When you talk to suppliers and importers that align with distributors, they'll tell you, I got to come into the market way too often because the distributors don't do the legwork, particularly if you're a small winery, small importer, when you mean so little to that large distributor, goes by the wayside. The bigger problem is as these larger distributors gobble up market share, they don't care about the small guy. And they control the market. In a place like New York Metro, we're lucky because we have a lot of other great small distributors that will occupy that space and take on those small brands. But if you're in Oklahoma, if you're in Kansas, if you're in Nebraska, if you're even in like South Carolina, it's hard.
You really got to do market work.
If you can't get your brand into the market, Even in New York, we're seeing lots of problems with
Yeah.
smaller wineries. I do a lot of work with wineries out in Walla, Washington that had distribution and now they don't. Like they can't get distributors in New York to take them up.
Yeah.
They cannot. Nobody wants them. There's small producers in Italy that had importers that then dropped them and they can't get back into the marketplace. And it's mostly because everybody is tightly wound on what's important. They're afraid to take the risk because then maybe they don't have the personnel to go door to door to sell the wine. You're going to see it with distilleries over the
Yeah.
next couple of years. Huge distribution problems for distilleries in the United States because the larger distributors, they've got too much on their plate already. So they don't need that new small distillery in Kentucky or Tennessee or Indiana or Pennsylvania or New York State. They're like, if I don't sell that in Kansas, is anyone going to miss it?
Independent retailers, it's always tough because they just don't feel like dealing with another distributor. So for you guys that don't know, to sell wine to a particular place, you're going to need their tax info, get them signed up in their system. And a lot of times a retailer, if they're not already doing business with you, they just don't feel like having to manage a whole nother thing. Getting all of your stuff on one bill makes your life a lot easier.
Most of these restaurants don't even have a wine and spirits buyer anymore. So they'll literally go to one distributor or two distributors and say, make a wine list for me, make a spirits program. Their craft cocktail list is written by one sales rep at one distributor, and it's a monopoly at that level. They have no interest in dealing with multiples. Like a store like ours, we're required to deal with multiple distributors and happy to do it. It enhances our selection, it enhances the customer's experience. These distributors have made it very difficult.
I completely agree. I see it a lot. What does this mean for the market? What does this play out? What does it look like for the rest of the year? I spoke with a big company yesterday, I won't say who, and they had some blowback from all of this, and everybody's got their hands up in a frenzy. What does this look like going forward?
In these other markets, I think it's status quo for the moment. If you were working with RNDC in Florida and Reyes has taken you over, this has been in the works for months. So Reyes has already sat down with the large players that they want to. If RNDC had any smaller brands, most likely kiss it goodbye this year in 2026 on a more global platform. It'll continue to strengthen Reyes as they continue to gobble up market share. They're not in New York, but there's been rumors for 2 years that they're coming soon. The trickle down is you will see smaller brands, small importers get kicked to the curb by a Reyes because they're not equipped. They don't know. They're looking at, it's an 80-20 rule, right? Likely 80% of their money is made by 20% of their portfolio now. Do we need the other 80% of the portfolio? They're coming in from like a huge beer angle.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking Budweiser, Modelo, all the big brands of beer. So they're not coming in as some craft beer specialist that wants to get into craft wine. They're a $45 billion company looking to make a huge splash. It's dollars and cents for them. It's business. And you see it even with smaller distributors, even in New York, that continue to grow. And you start looking at their portfolios, they'll take on bigger brands perhaps than they used to not take on because they're looking at dollars and cents.
You got to pay the rent somehow. With that said, what do you think this means for DTC? Are we going to see more DTC stuff, or what do you think?
I mean,
and guys, if you don't know, DTC is direct to consumer.
Yeah, so direct to consumer has any number of meanings, but really it's inevitably the wineries being able to ship directly to the consumer, which was legalized by the U.S. Supreme Court in Granholm decision in 2005. The problem with the DTC side is the cost of doing business. Wineries have a handshake agreement with the distributors that they won't go lower on pricing, although I've certainly seen that happen over the last few years as business has struggled. And subsequently, the cost of shipping becomes a loss too. It's expensive to ship wine. If you're a California winery and you're shipping to New York and you're shipping to Florida, and if you're a small winery, you're likely not doing it directly out of your place.
Right.
You're consolidating somewhere to help cut down on shipping costs or even warehouse costs, and you can farm out the employment tasks of that. You can go to a warehouse where they've got employees that are going to pack your goods. So DTC is always playing a role, but that's like a red herring. That's where the distributors have been against it since the beginning of time in fear that they're going to go out of business. And the reality is distributors are going out of business because other distributors are putting them out of business. A winery direct shipping is not putting them out of their business. It's been proven over the last 20 years. It would actually enhance their business at many levels if retailers were allowed to ship, which again, they pushed back on. If you're looking at small importation, small distributors, maybe you're only in 5 states, 4 states, 8 states, whatever it is. And if you could utilize a store like Grapes the Wine Company to do your fulfillment for you across all of the states, that would enhance your business strategy. Small distributors, small importers, they have this small-minded approach of thinking like the big importer, big distributor that's putting them out of business. So their number one enemy as almost their ally. And I've had this conversation for years with these distributors and importers. I'm your friend in this. I'm the person that wants to sell your wine. I want to sell it in New York. I want to sell it in Ohio. I want to sell it in Arizona. That distributor importer that's just looking to take you out of business, they don't give a crap about those small brands. So inevitably, it should help us all. You would think theoretically the federal government at some point would intervene, knowing Southern, for instance, I don't know what the percentage is, 60, 70% of all wine spirits in the US is passed through one private company. This goes back to the Baby Bells and the breakup, the phone companies, like at some point, the federal government would have to look at that. I would have thought it would have been at the Southern Glazers merger time. It seemingly was overlooked. At some point, as that company continues to gain market share, someone's going to have to look at it and be like, do we really want a 30, 40, $50 billion industry occupied by one privately held company? It's antitrust right there, definitely. And we're there. It's just a question of whether it's going to happen tomorrow, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But that's where we're headed.
Well, you know what I'll say to our industry and our producers and distributors out there is do the market work, do the work. This is a people business. Get in there, get your elbows dirty. You'll sell more wine. Do the market work.
If you're a salesperson, you make commission off doing it, right? You don't have to sit in your pajamas in front of your computer expecting the orders to come to you. You don't have to be that order taker. Get out there.
What ends up happening there is certain suppliers will provide different bonus rates. And that's where the whole thing gets tricky.
It's not level at that point. It's not an even playing field. Distributors say, hey, can you help me with a placement, or can we do something here? And I get all that. That is the cost of business, and that's okay. You got to find your lane. You got to see what works for you. Exactly. If you're working for Southern, or whether you're working for Skurnik, or whether you're working for Reyes or NBC, whatever they're going to be called, I don't know. You got to find your lane. You got to find what works, and you got to move forward with that. But there's stores like ours that want to carry certain wines, and then there's big box that wants to carry certain wines.
Exactly.
And then you have this whole other world of retail, like where you have a Total Wine, huge, what, $6-7 billion, 6-7? I don't know. I shouldn't have said that, but $1 billion in sales or whatever. And you walk into that store, and what is it? What are all the floor stacks? All private labels.
Yeah.
That's all right. So they've got their angle they've built up. You got to find your lane. You got to do whatever it takes to keep the lights on.
Exactly.
It's a contact
business is
sport.
A contact sport.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't want you to think we're shitting on you. Look, wine industry, we're rooting for you. We need to have these hard conversations with ourselves. We need to call this stuff out. People generally don't know this stuff. So, you know, if you are still a little confused, look up the 3-tier system, get an idea of what's going on. And for our wine industry people that are listening, we are rooting for you, but get out there and do the work.
1,000%. That's courtesy of Showtime there. We love it. Jermaine, this is our business too. This is our livelihood.
Exactly.
We need this business to succeed. We want it to succeed. We want consumption to go up. We want it to be in a good place. We want you to go to a good restaurant, order a nice bottle of wine. We want you to go to a bar and have a cocktail with friends. Feel free to crack open a beer. We want people to realize it's all okay to do that. And it's okay if it's just a Bud Light. It's also okay if it's that craft beer. It's okay if it's that small craft whiskey. It's okay if it's Cavit Pinot Grigio. Whatever your lane is, just start drinking a little.
Just have fun with it.
Have fun with it. Get a dope cellar.
Exactly. Just walk into your dope cellar, crack open a bottle, and have some fun. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of Bottled Up.
Episode 5 in the books. Next week is episode 6.
See y'all next week.
Peace.